A lot to cover weather-wise, but I guess the bottom line here, certainly as we look ahead, there have been some significant changes weather-wise, and we're moving into certainly a more summer-like pattern here, and we haven't been able to say that this season thus far, but we are truly, I think, looking at some early summer type conditions here for a lot of the next week and possibly more than that. Looking behind here at the last week, lots to talk about here, too much to talk about actually, but one last week of below normal temperatures on the left-hand side here. Most of the state averaged out between 2 and as much as 5 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. But if you remember, that is much less than what we had been looking at for the first couple of weeks in May, where we were double digits actually below normal. Our degree day totals still lag because of that. The very cold early May still lag well behind normal, but with the recent milder temperatures are not quite as far behind. Most of the state right now in terms of time is about 1 to 2 weeks behind, or calendar weeks behind where we typically are. But given the outlook, that will be less here, certainly by next week and probably beyond that. The big news, and Aaron's already alluded to this, and the question, obviously all of the rainfall here. We had 2 major weather systems the past week, one at the end of last week, last Thursday and Friday, which led to heavy rain. That was and an even larger system here that began on the state on Sunday and Monday, and even into Tuesday in some spots. The figure here on the right, these are rainfall totals for the week through yesterday, or actually through yesterday morning. But you can see this is something we don't see very often. Widespread heavy rain, and it's not just Michigan, it's much of the lower peninsula, but it's a lot of the really the central and eastern corn belt. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, large portions received somewhere on the order 2 to 4 inches. And of course, there were areas that did significantly higher than that. I wanted to focus on those just a second here. This is the 2-day totals here for that heavy rain event at the beginning of the week. And again, much of lower Michigan, you can see 2 to 4 inches fell. It was in a long, prolonged rain event with light to moderate rain with some heavy periods embedded in there. The heaviest rain that we saw, and then the totals we've looked at, up here in just north of Saginaw Bay. You can see West Branch up here. A large area here picked up more than 6 inches. The highest total I did see was Au Gres in Aranac County, which reported 8.1 inches. And that, again, that's top end climatologically for the state of Michigan and for the Great Lakes region. We rarely see that. The other thing, couple other issues here. Again, it is unusual to see that much water over such a large area. And again, if you look at lower Michigan and actually surrounding areas here in the other states, it's just very rare to see so much water over such a large area. Also, just as importantly, there are a couple areas here that did not see nearly as much water in the northern part of the state, including upper Michigan and then the extreme northern lower. And then also down here across southeastern portions of the state where less than ½ an inch fell during the entire event. It's also important to note here down in the southeast, this area has missed out on other rainfall events that much of the rest of the state has recorded or observed. And so that if we looked at a driest part of the state, the southeast corner would be that location. Although again, it has been a little bit drier here recently in the northern part of the state. But overall, the state, the region are still running well above, again, on the average where they typically are. Our soil moisture rankings are back up to near the top end. And there's a lot of excess water in the environment. We've all seen the footage of the conditions here in Midland County with the flooding and dam failures and so forth. That's all, of course, related to this. One little meteorology 101 I thought I would just share, but I asked the question rhetorically here, how do you get that much rain over such a large area? And the answer is you've got to have an awful lot of water vapor. This map depicts a variable called precipitable water. And of course, you have to get precip in any given location, you've got to have two things. One is you've got to have some kind of a lifting mechanism in the atmosphere that causes air to rise and cool and condense into water or ice crystals. It's cold enough. So you got to have that lifting mechanism. That could be a cold front. It could be a thunderstorm. There are a number of ways you can do that. But the second one is you've got to have the raw material to get to, you have to have water vapor that can condense and lead to precipitation. And that's what you're looking at here. The precipitable water is actually looking at the atmosphere on a vertical cross section and saying how much water vapor is there. And it is related. It's not completely correlated, but it's strongly related with how much rain or snow, how much precipitation could fall. Because again, it's basically looking at the raw material. In this map here, the browns are areas where there are low values of precipitable water, and the greens and the darker greens especially are areas with lots of precipitable water or water vapor in the atmosphere. And what you can see here is two things. One is you've got a clear shot from the Gulf of Mexico, which is one of our primary moisture sources in the upper Midwest, 1,000 miles to our south. And you can, the winds here are all out of the south, 40 miles per hour. This water vapor is rapidly being moved northward up into the upper Midwest and into Michigan. So, and there's one other feature here that did play a role, and that was Tropical Storm Arthur, the first named storm of the Atlantic Basin here this year. Actually, it was the hurricane season doesn't even begin officially until the beginning of June. But this was the first one. Arthur was the first one, and you can see all of the water vapor associated with that down here just off the southeast coast of the U.S. But combined between what we got off the Gulf of Mexico and from Arthur, that is one of the keys. Sometimes these are referred to as atmospheric river events, where we literally have a movement of all this water vapor from one place up many, many miles to another place, and that's what we saw here. This is this actually chart that I'm showing you was as of Sunday evening, but we saw most of this set up during the day, late Saturday into Sunday, and continued into Monday. So this played a major role in terms of where did that water vapor come from. We had a clear supply of lots and lots and lots of water vapor that we don't see very often. So again, this was something, an event that doesn't happen, fortunately, very often, but this is one of the reasons why. Well, where are we headed here over the next couple of days? One more, and I don't think you could ask for a much nicer day than we had yesterday, but believe it, today will be very, very similar, almost identical, maybe a degree or two warmer than it was yesterday, and that's one of the themes in our forecast. We are looking at a significant warming trend over here over the next couple days. One other thing to note here, this all of this rain down here in the southeastern U.S., that is still the same system that affected us in Michigan here on Sunday and Monday, and due to the upper air configuration here, something called a cutoff low, and we'll do that for another time. But that system actually may drift back to the north here tomorrow and clip the far southeastern edge of the state. At a minimum, we might get a few clouds with the system. I wouldn't be surprised to see cloudier conditions across the south tomorrow, but we might actually have a few sprinkles or very light showers here across the southeastern part of the U.S. Otherwise, today and tomorrow, both looking fair and dry. Today, especially, spectacular day today. High temperatures up near or into the 70s in almost all of the state. By Saturday, here's not much change you can see on the map with a little bit. This is Friday morning here at 8 o'clock. You can see some of that light rain possibly making it as far northwest as the southeastern corner of the state. And then off to our west, this is the next weather system to impact us. It's a frontal boundary that will move here by late in the day on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday type time frame. So what we'll be seeing on Saturday, definitely warmer, noticeably warmer on Saturday and Sunday, up into well into the 70s. We'll also see the chance for some scattered showers and a thunder shower late in the day on Saturday. Better chance a little bit on Sunday, but both those days this weekend, holiday weekend, it will be more scattered. The next best chance for organized or widespread precipitation will be on Monday and probably into Tuesday. I think most of the state will see some precipitation at that point. So what falls this weekend will be scattered. A lot of places will not see any rain, but at least the threat will be there. And as I mentioned, the noticeable thing, our high temperatures will actually be at above normal levels. Both our max temperatures in the 70s. We will reach probably 80 for the first time this year on Sunday, Monday, and possibly even into Tuesday. And our low temperatures will increase from the 40s and 50s into the 50s and 60s. So we're going to pick up a lot of heat units here over the course of the next week, especially into the weekend and into early next week. In terms of precip here, what do the models suggest here for the next week out through next Thursday morning? Less than 1/4 inch in far northern parts of the state, and up to 1/2 to 3/4 inch across the south. So in the south, that's probably pretty close to normal. One other thing I would note about the outlook as we look into next week, I mentioned the best chance for precip probably on Monday. There will be a continuing threat of showers, sort of an unsettled pattern with a stalled frontal boundary expected to be across the area next week. So look for an almost daily chance for showers after Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday type time frame as well. There will be more threats of rain, and it'll also be continue warmer than normal. So again, early summer-like type temperatures. Medium range forecast guidance is continuing on this theme. Here on for the 26th through the 30th, right now, very, very likely that May ends up, the last week in May ends up warmer and wetter than normal. Here in the upper right, you can see mean temperature forecast for much of the Great Lakes region and all of Michigan forecast to be warmer than normal and normal to above normal precipitation totals. So right now, that looks like a good bet. However, I just would note some of the models are not in complete agreement with this as we look in, especially in the first week of June. And I wouldn't be surprised, there's a chance that first week or so of June of maybe seeing a little a Canadian origin air mass make it in. Doesn't look like anything, nothing like what we saw in early May, but at least a little cooler conditions. I wouldn't be surprised a break in this pattern that you're seeing here maybe during that first week of June. So wrapping up here, again, beautiful conditions here for most of the state today and most of the state tomorrow, with the exception of the southeast lower peninsula where we've got a chance of a shower, a few more clouds, and then the scattered showers statewide, the threat on Saturday and Sunday. A lot of areas will remain dry, and it'll also be warmer. And then that sets up for, unfortunately, for our Memorial Day on Monday. That's the best chance for showers and thunderstorms. We probably will see more widespread precip on Monday. Still not heavy rain expected. Again, most areas talking 1/4 to 1/2 inch, but it is going to certainly complicate your planning here looking ahead. And then next week, almost an unsettled pattern with warm temperatures, but an almost daily chance for showers. And then you saw just here before the medium range suggesting more of the same for through the end of May, but then maybe a little bit of a hint at something different by towards cooler conditions by June. That's all I have. I'll stop and turn it back to you here, Jim. And I forgot, I've been remiss here to put in a peg for our speaker, Scott Bales. Next week we'll be talking about dry bean planting. So my apologies for that. Just a reminder, though, for next Thursday.
Well, thanks very much, Jeff, for the encouraging weather forecast. It's good to hear some good news after this recent events. One comment here for you, Jeff. Are the expected next week showers Monday through Wednesday likely to be only in the late afternoon, like in the summer, so we can plan on getting some work done?
I think that there probably will be more frequent during the day, the instability type showers. So I would say yes, there will be a diurnal characteristic, but there will probably be a chance even at night. But the highest probability, the highest risk will be in the late afternoon and the early evening, which is typical once we move into the warm season.
I do have one more question in the chat box for you, Jeff, and that is, when is the best chance of making first cutting hay? And I'm not sure if that's for haylage or dry hay, but they're going to be similar.
Well, I guess one comment would be a couple thoughts. One is that we're going to pick up a lot of heat units. We should see some significant pickup in growth rates here over the next week because of the outlook. At the same time, though, there are more than normal threats for precip, which is going to be a bit of a challenge, and that's also going to be the case for a lot of our spring field work that hasn't been done yet. But I think it's a little difficult to say now. We're still behind normal in terms of our season and where the growth rates and how much is out there. But I think a lot will change over the next week. So the pattern that we're in is definitely not a conducive one for harvesting much of anything But as I mentioned, there might be a break once we get into the early part of June. But for the rest of May, certainly the warmer and wetter, the normal pattern, I think, is a pretty strong bet.
You know, Jeff, I am getting questions already about first cutting hay. And a lot of it has to do with the amount of heat that we're getting is going to cause this alfalfa to explode.
Yeah, and given the outlook, I think the timing on that is pretty close at hand here when we will see that. I agree. I think a lot. You can even see it in the grass and the lawns and so forth. It's going to happen very, very soon, and especially with the temperatures in the well into the 70s and then low 80s. It's almost optimal conditions here for growth over the next week. So I think an explosion of growth is probably pretty close to what we're looking at. Things will happen quickly.